Here's my big thought for today. I was reading an entry in the 1947 edition of the ABC and XYZ of Bee Culture. I can't remember the exact entry, but they were talking about upper entrances, and as most people in certain climates know, that upper entrances are pretty crucial to providing ventilation in the winter, so it releases excess moisture from the hive, keeps the bees dry. But it also, if you look at this typical notched entrance in the inner cover of a Langstroth hive, it releases a lot of heat. The heat just rises up, and that's because this is right at the very top of the hive, and a lot of heat escapes from the hive, and the bees lose that heat constantly all winter long. Whatever heat they've got is going out of this hole. And it kind of doesn't make sense, right? But this is how we've got it. And you can go into arguments about how the bees only heat up the part of the hive and the cluster that they need and all that sort of stuff. But it's still, the heat is still coming out of this hole. And so I was reading about one of the entries where they talked about drilling an auger hole, or just a hole, in your top super, and you drill it. This is my inner cover where normally the notched entrance would be, and these bees are defensive, and at least that one is. And instead of having the notched entrance that allows all the heat to escape, you drill a hole a few inches down from the top inner cover, or the top of the hive, and there's your hole. Whoa! The bee came right out and tried to sting me, and that provides. Whoa! Yeah, they're very defensive today. Anyway, so that allows the heat to rise up and stay inside the hive and not escape. Yet somehow, supposedly, the insulation, or not the insulation, the moisture will still escape from that hole. I don't know if that's how it works, but that's what I've read, and that's what I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to try it with this hive this winter and just see what happens. Now, that whole setup might be defeated by the fact that I have a ventilation rim over the inner cover, and the inner cover, there's an inner cover hole which would allow more heat to escape. But if you look carefully, I've got a hive pillow inside there. It's just a burlap pillow with wood chips, and that holds the heat in. It's covering that hole, the inner cover hole. So I don't know. I don't know if it actually works now that I have that ventilation rim, but I'm going to give it a go. I'm not willing quite yet to give up on my ventilation rims, because they work better than anything else that I've done in terms of keeping my bees dry in the winter. So we'll see. I used to use moisture quilts, which are essentially replaces the ventilation rim with a porous screen or canvas bottom to almost like a shallow, and that is filled with wood chips. And the moisture just goes through the wood chips and gets wicked out of the hive, and I won't go into it, but that's how it works. But I found that a lot of heat came out of the moisture quilt that I used to use, and what happened is the bees ended up just trying to stay warm. They would go to where the heat was rising to the top of the hive, but still a lot of heat was escaping from the hive. Whereas if it had a more solid bottom, or a solid top, really, that heat, I would think, would stay inside the hive and not immediately escape through the moisture quilt, or in this case, the top entrance, right? So I don't know if it makes any sense. There's probably some physics there that I'm completely ignoring, and it doesn't work at all. But I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to see what happens. I'm just going to leave this one alone with that hole right there, and maybe it'll allow the heat to stay in, and hopefully condensation will still come out of that hole somehow. I don't see how that's going to work, actually, but anyway, we'll see. We'll see. But I think this here is really that's going to be my gold standard, using the moisture quilt, not a moisture quilt, the ventilated rim up top. I think that's the way to go. And I think the DE hive that's become popular in Newfoundland is essentially this. It's just that's your main component. It's got a box and all kinds of other jazz that, it's almost an over-engineered hive, but everything about it makes sense. So I think if you don't have a DE hive, just put a rim on top, boom, and you're gonna gain most of the benefits that I think you would from a DE hive. It's mostly, I think most of it comes down to that ventilation rim. Yep.